It started innocently enough, the way these things often do in a world where connections are just a swipe away. I was 24, fresh out of a stagnant job, trying to rebuild my life in a quiet suburb on the edge of the city. The houses here were old, with creaking wooden frames and yards that backed onto dense woods places where shadows lingered even in daylight. I'd downloaded the app on a whim, scrolling through profiles late at night when the silence of my empty rental pressed in too heavily. That's how I met Alex. Our first meeting was at a small cafe downtown, the kind with mismatched chairs and the faint hum of an espresso machine in the background. He was charming in an understated way tall, with a quiet laugh that seemed genuine. We talked about books, the ones that keep you up at night, and how the city lights made everything feel artificial. It lasted longer than I'd expected, the conversation flowing like we'd known each other for years. No red flags, just a spark of possibility in an otherwise monotonous routine. The second date was a walk through the park at dusk. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain. He shared stories from his travels, places I'd only dreamed of, and I felt seen, really seen for the first time in months. But as the sky darkened, I noticed how he mirrored my steps a little too closely, his hand brushing mine not accidentally, but with intent. I shook it off as nerves, the thrill of something new. By the third date dinner at a dimly lit Italian place, doubts began to creep in like fog, rolling through the woods behind my house. His questions grew sharper, probing into my daily habits, where I worked, what time I got home, who I lived with. Alone, I told him, laughing it off. His eyes lingered on me a beat too long, not with affection, but something analytical, like he was cataloging details for later. The food tasted metallic on my tongue, the clink of silverware echoing unnaturally loud in the quiet restaurant. I ended the night early, citing an early morning, but his text came before I'd even unlocked my door. Miss you already? Sweet dreams. I tried to pull back after that, spacing out responses, but he persisted with a persistence that felt less like interest and more like a tether, tightening. One evening, as I drove home from work, the streetlights flickering on in the gathering twilight, I glanced in my rearview mirror and saw a familiar sedan trailing 2 cars back. My pulse quickened, a subtle thrum in my veins, but I told myself it was coincidence. 3 turns later, it was still there. I texted him, "Are you behind me?" His reply buzzed almost immediately. "Just making sure you're safe. The roads are dark out here." I didn't respond. Instead, I veered into a gas station lot, heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird, and watched him cruise past without stopping. That night, sleep evaded me. The house felt too vast, every creak of settling wood amplifying in the stillness. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of unseen eyes pressing through the windows. The messages escalated the next day, apologies laced with pleas, then accusations when I didn't reply fast enough. "Why are you ignoring me? I thought we had something real." I blocked him, the digital equivalent of slamming a door. But the unease lingered, a cold knot in my stomach that twisted tighter with each passing hour. Then came the calls from unknown numbers, ringing insistently in the dead of night, the silence between them more oppressive than the sound itself. I'd let them go to voicemail, but there were no messages, just breathing, faint and deliberate, like someone savoring the connection. A week later, I came home to find a small package on my porch, wrapped in plain brown paper. No note, just my name scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a necklace, simple silver with a pendant shaped like a key. My skin crawled as I held it. It felt warm, as if recently worn. How did he know where I lived? I hadn't shared that. The realization hit like ice water. He'd followed me that night, mapped my route, my sanctuary. I tossed it in the trash, but the act did nothing to dispel the growing dread. A psychological vice squeezing my thoughts until every shadow seemed alive. I started varying my routines, leaving work at different times, taking back roads where the trees arched overhead like skeletal fingers. But the paranoia built slowly, insidiously. One afternoon, sorting mail in the fading light of my kitchen, I heard a soft rustle outside the window. Peering out, I saw nothing but the sway of branches in the wind. That night, alone in bed, the house enveloped in a blanket of quiet so thick it muffled even my own breaths, I woke to a faint scratching. Not claws, but deliberate, like nails dragging along glass. It came from downstairs, intermittent, probing. I froze, every muscle taut, the darkness pressing against my eyes like velvet. My mind raced. Was it the wind? An animal? But the rhythm was too human, too intentional. Sweat beaded on my skin, despite the chill, and I reached for my phone, fingers trembling as I dialed emergency services. Whispering into the receiver, I described the sound, the history with Alex, my voice barely audible over the pounding in my ears. As I waited, huddled under the covers, the scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by an even heavier silence. One that screamed of presence, of someone listening back. The police arrived, their flashlights cutting through the night like accusatory beams. They found no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the soft earth around the house. Could be a raccoon, one officer said, his tone dismissive, but his eyes scanned the woods with unease. They advised locks, cameras, a restraining order. I nodded, but as they left, the isolation crashed back in waves. I installed the cameras the next day, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes in the corners of rooms. For a few days, peace returned, or the illusion of it. Then, reviewing the footage one evening, glass of wine in hand to steady my nerves, I saw it, a figure at the edge of the frame, lingering in the tree line just beyond my yard. Not moving, just standing, face obscured by shadow. The time stamp matched the night of the scratching. My breath caught, a sharp intake that echoed in the empty room. It was him had to be. But when I zoomed in, the details blurred, leaving only the suggestion of form, enough to fuel the terror, but not to prove it. The twist came not in confrontation, but in revelation. Late one night, as rain pattered against the windows like insistent fingers, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo of my living room, taken from inside. The angle was from the hallway, capturing the couch where I'd sat just hours before. No caption, just the image, time-stamped minutes ago. Panic surged, hot and electric, flooding my limbs. I grabbed a kitchen knife, its handle slick in my palm, and swept the house room by room, the floorboards groaning underfoot, every dark corner a potential ambush. Nothing, no one. But as I returned to the kitchen, heart slamming, I noticed the back door ajar, just a crack, enough for a draft to whisper through. And on the counter, untouched since morning, lay the necklace I'd thrown away, its key pendant gleaming under the light. He'd been here, inside, close enough to touch. The police came again, took statements, but without evidence linking it to Alex, no fingerprints, no sightings, it fizzled into warnings and paperwork. I moved shortly after to a high-rise apartment in the city, surrounded by noise and people where solitude felt like safety. But the fear didn't leave. It evolved, burrowing into my psyche like a parasite. Every unfamiliar face in a crowd, every late-night notification carried his echo. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, I'd wonder, was the key to my old house? Or to something deeper, a door I'd unwittingly opened in myself? The real horror wasn't the intrusion, it was knowing that trust, once shattered, leaves fractures that never fully heal, turning every shadow into a mirror of your own vulnerability. And in the end, that's what lingers, not the monster outside, but the one you've invited in unknowingly with a simple swipe.